stories fade with time, buried beneath silence, lost in forgotten files, or dismissed as mysteries that will never be solved. But behind every case is a voice that was never heard, a truth still waiting in the dark. This channel is dedicated to the victims, the unanswered questions, and the stories that refuse to disappear. Because somewhere, someone still knows what happened. Welcome to Cries Unheard in the Darkness. In the world of missing persons, we often look for a last seen point, a specific GPS coordinate where a life simply paused. On March 4, 2001, that point was supposed to be the old Hickory Mall in Jackson, Tennessee. According to her father, 11-year-old Bethany Markowski walked into that mall to visit Claire's and the game room while he took a nap in the car. But when investigators checked the tapes, the story began to crumble. There was no Bethany on the surveillance footage. Not at the mall entrance, not in the halls, not anywhere. Bethany Leanne Markowski was born on February 1, 1990. To those who knew her, she was a sweet yet sassy girl, the youngest of 5 children in a blended family. But behind the doors of the home she shared with her parents, Johnny Joe Carter and Larry Markowski, things were far from sweet. In January 2001, just 2 months before Bethany disappeared, the family reached a breaking point. Johnny separated from Larry, describing him as abusive and controlling. The allegations were severe. Johnny claimed Larry had abused not just her, but Bethany and her siblings. Even more chilling, a classmate of Bethany's later told authorities that Bethany had confided in them that her father had touched her inappropriately. Fearing for their safety, Johnny fled with Bethany to her sister Lori's home in Hermitage, Tennessee. But the peace didn't last. Larry allegedly abducted Bethany from her new school, an act that forced Johnny to obtain a protection order. Yet the legal system is complicated. Despite the allegations, a custody agreement allowed Larry unsupervised weekend visits. It was during one of these weekends, the first weekend of March 2001, that the nightmare began. On March 3rd, Bethany was with Larry at his home in Gleason, Tennessee. She called her mom, Johnny, sounding normal and telling her that they were going ice skating the next day. The next morning, at around 9:38 a.m., Bethany called her mom again. She was checking in about being picked up later that day. Because of the protection order, Johnny couldn't do it herself, so she arranged for Bethany's aunt and uncle to meet them at 5 p.m. in Waverly, Tennessee. Now we look at Larry's timeline. According to a friend named Harold, Larry and Bethany spent some time at Harold's place in Little Rock, Arkansas, that morning before hitting the road back to Tennessee. Somewhere between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m., Larry claimed they stopped at the old Hickory Mall in Jackson. He said Bethany wanted to go to Claire's. He said he stayed in the car to take a nap. He said when he woke up an hour later, she was gone. But here is the first major red flag. When 5 p.m. rolled around, the time Bethany was supposed to be handed over to her aunt and uncle, Larry didn't show up. He didn't answer his phone. It took several attempts before he finally told the family Bethany was missing. He didn't notify mall security until 5:15 p.m., and police weren't called until 6 p.m. When the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation showed up on March 6th, they reviewed the mall's surveillance footage. They found nothing. No Bethany. No proof she had ever set foot in that mall. The investigation immediately hit a wall of suspicion. Larry Markowski denied any involvement, but investigators found him uncooperative. While Bethany's mother, Johnny, passed a lie detector test, Larry did not. But then, the case took a bizarre turn. While police couldn't find Bethany at the mall, witnesses elsewhere began reporting a girl matching her description. And she wasn't alone. Multiple witnesses claimed to see Bethany in the weeks following her disappearance with an unidentified woman. The sightings were specific. In April 2001, this woman allegedly tried to enroll Bethany in a private school in Sweetwater, Tennessee, claiming to be her aunt. She had no records and vanished when school officials asked for paperwork. Later, a pair matching their description was seen for several days at a cafe in Cleveland, Tennessee. The woman was irritable, constantly using a payphone. Here's the kicker. Investigators discovered that Larry was actually scheduled to deliver products to that exact cafe, but he arrived 3 days late because his truck had broken down. Was this a coincidence, or was a handoff supposed to happen? The last sighting of the pair was at a bus depot, boarding a bus for Moline, Illinois. When police searched Moline, the trail went cold. For 20 years, the case sat in painful limbo. Then, in 2016, a spark of hope. Johnny received a call from the TBI. A young woman had been found passed out on a porch in Knoxville. When she woke up, she told the homeowner her name was Bethany Markowski. She had similar identifying marks. The family held their breath. But DNA is final. The test came back, and the woman was not Bethany. It was a cruel blow to a family that had already endured so much. As of April 2024, the FBI is still actively following new leads. Bethany would be in her 30s today. Was Bethany a victim of a father's rage? Or was she sold or handed off to a woman with frizzy blonde hair to be hidden away? The Old Hickory Mall was the official scene of the crime, but the truth likely lies somewhere along the miles of highway between Little Rock and Jackson. If you have any information regarding this case, please contact the Jackson Police Department or the FBI Memphis Field Office. Thanks for listening to Cries, Unheard in the Darkness. If this story stayed with you, you're not alone. Subscribe and like, because the darkness always has more to say. Until next time, listen carefully.